another video. Today I shall be, as the kids say, spilling the proverbial tea. Ask you guys on my Instagram what you want to know about school, university, studying, lifestyle, all your questions / the advice that you want, and I'm going to be answering that today. Basically, I shall try my very best to give you very sound, very productive, very applicable, practical, and spirit-led advice. I'm a recent biomedical science graduate, and I've been creating study content for about 4 years now on Instagram. Yeah, take my advice. There's a reason that kids call me the holy academic weapon. It's because I came up with the name myself. Hi, my name is Chipiano Afi. I'm the holy academic weapon, and you are watching my YouTube channel. Alrighty, so I split the questions into different categories just so we can address them topic by topic. By the way, if you've been enjoying the YouTube content so far and you want more, like and subscribe. Click the subscribe button. What's the best way to develop a study structure? I'm glad you asked. In my opinion, the best way to develop a study structure is to experiment. I think that a lot of us don't try enough to figure out how we study or how best we study. We simply go with like, oh, this is how I've always done it. And then you land in university and think, yeah, that's exactly how I'm going to do it. But for me, every first to second week of every semester was when I would experiment. Because I consume a lot of like study content. I was experimenting with like flashcards, active recall, taking notes, writing out the notes, typing out the notes, watching lecture videos, all of that. So the best way to develop a study structure, I would say number one, is to experiment. There's a lot of helpful study content creators. The ones I watched a lot when I was at university, and Jade, Ali Abdal, Vika Tivu, and Faye Bates. I hope I'm saying her name right. But these are the creators that I watched a lot, and then I picked information from them, and then I experimented with that information on the different study techniques. My summarized advice is consume a lot of content, read a lot about different study techniques, use about 1 to 2 weeks to experiment, and then settle on what you're going to practice. What study techniques do I use? So I know that I was a very big active recall person, and so what I would do is take active recall notes. And what that means is when I'm studying, right, a lot of us read slides and PDFs and then write the exact same thing down and think that we're studying. And if it works for you, okay. The science doesn't back that, but okay. Instead of writing down notes, I would write down questions so that when I come back and revise, what I have to do is to write down the answer. The second thing I did very often was bulleting, where I would go into a study session, read, study, and then at the end of it, close it and write down, like I would take a rough sheet and write down a mind map, and just, it didn't look pretty. You just, every single thing I remembered about what I said, and I would squeeze my brain. When we study, instead of thinking about consuming information, because we know that at the end of the day, the thing that's going to prove that we study is the information that we're able to put out on the exam paper. We should be able to squeeze out as much information as we have. So that was the goal of my study sessions. This is a study technique. I would almost always study with my study partner before exams or quizzes. We didn't do this every day. We only did this when there were exams and quizzes that we needed to do that too. So shout out to Jefta. I would not have survived school without you, and I know you're watching. Thank you. How do you retain so much information and still understand it? The way that you do that, because I studied biomedical science, like I mentioned, and it's a very content heavy course. How I was retaining the information was constantly revisiting. There's no way around it. Constant revision. And you retain the information by simulating exam situations. What that means is, you know that at the end of the day, you're going to be quizzed. So in my situation, past questions were one of my best friends. I would test myself constantly, even if there's no quiz coming up. At the beginning of the semester, when I don't really know what the course is about, I'll buy that book. Those at UCC know, I'll buy that book at science with the past questions, and I'll start answering. I don't know anything about the course, but I have to familiarize myself with how the questions might be formulated. That's how I retain the information. But like, the best way is to constantly read, concentrate when you're studying. I think that when we try to multitask when we study, i.e. you are studying, but you have a friend talking to you, but you're scrolling through TikTok every 5 seconds, you are not focused and your attention span is divided. You might think, I did this entire chapter, but it's not working out. It's not sticking in your brain. So you want to enter a state of focus, deep focus. For me, that was phone on do not disturb. The only music I listened to was classical music or instrumentals without words, because it would interrupt my focus. Create that space of isolation and focus, because it is focusing during the study session that's going to help you retain. When you're distracted while you are studying, don't think that it's absorbing. It's just, no, it's not working. Focus during the study session. There's actually something called the forgetting curve. Every time you study something, it's declining. You're forgetting it. And so you have to interrupt that forgetting curve by studying again, or active recall, testing what you studied, and then it will begin to decline, and then you interrupt it by practicing again or testing again so that you don't forget. How do you catch up with studies when you're falling behind as a student? This might not be helpful, but for me, my motto in school was, if you're not ahead, you're behind. I went through school and I never put an all-nighter. I put one all-nighter, actually, that's the honest truth, and I did it for content. I did it because I wanted to shoot a video of putting an all-nighter. It wasn't because I was behind. I just did it for fun. That's not to say I didn't slip up. Everybody falls behind sometimes. And how do you catch up? A dedicated study day. I have like a couple of these on my Instagram where I did like full study days, 10-hour study days. Cut out all the distractions. Tell your friends that today I'm going to study the whole day, and then plan your day around what you need to catch up with. Like, that's the only way around this. This is when like you realize you're falling behind and there's no deadline approaching, right? I'm just going to put the study schedule I was using up here. But in case you are falling behind and it's like, oh my gosh, announcements, quiz tomorrow, I don't recommend all-nighters. That's the honest truth. I read a paper once, like my first year, like it was a comparative study, and so they compared the students who slept before an exam and then students who pulled all-nighters, and students who slept before an exam performed better. And I trust the science. That's one thing you always hear me saying, I trust the science. And so I slept. I would always sleep before an exam. But I mean, if you feel like it would work, you would need that extra time. What I would advise is questions. If you are behind, it's not now that you're going to take all the 8 slides that somehow you have not studied yet, you're going to read all of that, you're not going to retain. But what you want to do is test yourself. Questions and answers. I guess this is true and Paul. I don't know. Even though the past questions don't repeat themselves, you are understanding by testing and getting it wrong, testing and getting it wrong, and then coming back, testing and getting it right, testing and getting it right. But the best advice for falling behind is to not fall behind in the first place. Hope this helps. I don't get to see the reflection of my hard work and my results. Can it be the method of study? Perhaps it is the method of study. Then I would advise, I don't know what you're currently doing, but then I would advise, try something else. Sometimes when we are studying and we are not seeing the results, it's because we're not paying attention in class. And so one of my key things is treat the class. A lot of us go to class just to attend the class, right? Thinking that, okay, in my spare time, I will now learn. But the class is where you are learning because you paid money for it. You paid money. Even if you're in VSHS, whatever, you paid money. You are invested. They are supposed to teach you. So you sit there and you learn. My friends know this. I never really sat with most of my friends in class because I will not talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I paid these people money to teach me. Let them teach me. Let's not talk. It's not that they'll talk to me, it's that I will talk to them. So I took myself out of the equation. The only friend that I sometimes sat by is because I knew that he had the same mindset. We paid these people to teach us. We're going to be quiet and let them teach us. Treat the class as where you learn. Focus. Hone in. Don't just let them yap. Even if they are the most boring person on the earth. Focus. In case you're not seeing the results you want, one, if you have a friend who is doing well in the course, ask them what they're doing that you are not doing. This has helped me sometimes where I realized I was focusing a lot on reading, supplementary reading, and I realized my mates were solving past questions and passing, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. If there might be anything else that is interrupting or shifting your focus or distracting you, you perhaps want to look at that and address that. This is one of my favorite questions. I'm glad you asked. Is it advisable to write notes in class or while studying? If I tell you how big of a question this is in the study tube, study talk, study content areas, because everybody has their opinion. People are like, don't write notes at all. People are like, write notes. People say, write notes with pen and paper. Don't write notes on your laptop. Write notes on an iPad. This, that. Do your research. My personal advice, what I didn't write notes. I'm not a notes person. So, in the conventional sense, if you see me anyway, all throughout every year, I have one book. Like, it's one, and this is biomedical science. We're doing like 8 courses, 9 every semester, sometimes 11. One book with demarcations and divisions, that was my notebook. And I never finished a notebook in a year. It never happened because I wasn't taking that much notes. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that In class, I'm learning. I'm not focused on writing everything you're saying. I'm focused on hearing and understanding you, right, and following. So in class, yes, I come to school with my notebook, and what I would do is like the thing that they are stressing on in class, I would write it down. Like, you know, you're paying attention. He said this, and then he's hammering in on that thing. I would write it down. Second thing I would do, sometimes like there were lectures who would be like, this question you might meet it somewhere. I would write that question down. Fine. If they ask a question and then there's nobody in the class who can answer it, I'll still write the question down because I'm going to look at it. If they mention a word or a concept I'm unfamiliar with inside the class, I would write that down. So then this is after the class. Then my notes were a little more comprehensive, where I would like write down what I had found or what I had read on things I didn't understand or the things that needed further reading, further elaboration. To cut the long story short, is it advisable to write notes? Yes, but your notes should, one, be in your own words. Two, don't think that note taking is about the quantity of notes you're taking. Like some people just want to write pages and pages. No. Three, write down. Not everything is important, just write down. What do you do if you're studying but unable to grasp anything? Sometimes it happens where like my brain is, as I would tell my friend, saturated. I've reached here. I've reached the limit of what I can consume and absorb. I will not do it again. And what I would do is take a break. And if it's a particular topic or course I'm studying and I'm not absorbing it, take a break from that course. Like walk, don't study it for a day, just breathe on it. That's if I have time. Of course, like if there's an exam, I'll just take a walk and come back to it. But sometimes you just need to take a break. Sometimes you're just oversaturated and then you pray and then you get back to it. I have a couple of questions on final year project works. The way most universities in Ghana, I think, and elsewhere are set up, your final year you have to write a dissertation or a thesis. I went through a lot, I'm short of it. Hey, Jesus! I took on the bright side. I did come out of it with a lot of skills and just things. It challenged me in a way that I hadn't been challenged in my entire 4 years. So how did you go about your final year project work? I feel like that's a very big question and it could lead me to rant for a while. I'm a neuro project baby. My project work was on the effects of alcohol and sleep deprivation on cognition and memory of male students in UCC. I had project mates who were in the same group under one supervisor. They were very helpful. And then I discovered a lot of tools to use. So that's what I'm going to say, right? I'm going to give you the tools because like the other things are more like case specific and I don't want to ramble too much. So the thing that helped me a lot was Biomedical AI just summarized like YouTube videos, articles, other things. And I used little maps to like basically links related things. I use research rabbits to look for papers. So basically the final year project work, you can't do it alone. You can't. Lean on others for help. Ask for help when you can. And dedicate time to it outside of studying. I think that that's one of the things that we can sometimes find challenging, where we study, and oh my God, I've not done the final year work. Aside the studying that I need to do to finish my other courses, I dedicated like a couple of hours every other day to writing, to researching, etc. You sort of have to think about your final year project as a separate thing from your studies, and therefore don't mistake time spent on your final year project as time studying, right? I need a robust way to monitor my goals, habits, and activities daily. Any ideas? Boy, I hate to make this about me, but shameless plug, get my Notion templates. Get it. Notion is how I organize everything, how I stayed ahead of every deadline, the whole 4 years, how I organize my notes. It's a great note-taking and basically organizational tool. You can explore, experiment with it, and build your second brain, build your whole life in it. Get my templates, link is down in the descriptions. The apps that I would recommend: Notion, Google Calendar, and then the notes app on your phone. These are like my holy grail for organization. Even though you see like you want to plan daily, what really helped me was the Sunday before a week started, I would schedule everything I would plan for the week. So scheduling that time to schedule, planning the time that you used to plan is also important so that you're not caught lacking that. If you think it's a good idea to sideline your passion and use money as a good reason to choose a program, I'm not going to tell you what to do and what not to do, because I think that such a decision is really bound by your home, your financial situation, your background, your privilege. Some people can, make their decision based on passion, knowing that the family that they come from can support them financially. Some people make their decision to study knowing that they're fortunate enough that their passion aligns with the money-making field and they're sorted anyway. Some people don't have that privilege, where perhaps you're in a situation where you need the money, basically. Your family cannot support you. If you have legitimate financial constraints, I can't tell you, oh, follow your passion. I think that's not sound advice. I would say definitely pray about it, and ask, seek advice from people who have done this before you. But I would say, especially the way the workforce is moving, there's a lot of things that can be monetized, right? There's a lot of ways to monetize silly little passions, so to speak. And so you should look into that. If it is possible to monetize your passion, look into that and then make the decision, right? You might want to consider is if you can work while studying, and if you're able to, then that would help you. But I would say think about your financial situation. You need the money, or it's just because you want to become a person of high repute who has some career, some degree that has money. I don't think that's necessarily the best. How do you juggle academic work with self-development, engagement, such as reading books or soft skill lessons? I'm going to be honest, because I did a lot when I was in school. When I look back at it, I was studying, but I was also doing a lot of other things. One of those people that they say don't just pass through the school passed through you. Yeah. And I think how I did it was just time management. There were times where I wasn't the best at it, but definitely time management and honing those skills and having a daily schedule that I was very ruthless about. There was a time where I was just too busy. So my friends, I had 2 hours every week to fill my social cup, and that was it. And it's just my friends who would understand. Our friend groups might not understand, but we would go out. I would be there. I would say I have 2 hours to do this, and then my 2 hours would be up, and then I would leave them, and then I would go, and the squad is still out, still chilling. I just didn't have that much time on my hands, and I would leave. Drawing your boundaries, that's how I had time for other engagements. The thing that allowed me to do all these self-development things was how much effort I put into developing a steady routine and system that worked for me. So if this video makes you think that I spent a lot of time studying all the time, I didn't. I did not. I had a lot of downtime. I studied a lot, but it wasn't my whole life. I had time because the study system was working, so I didn't need to be there for 5 hours before one thing would stick. How do you balance everything you do? Time management, prayer, and the world looks at it like, oh my gosh, you're managing, and I'm looking at it like, Jesus, please help me, God, help. And also, I had a great support system in university. I still do. You need friends who understand that there's prophecy over your life. You need friends who recognize that about you, and you recognize that about them, because that support system is what's going to allow you to do other things. They take some things off your hands. They help when they can. I think we view relationships as separate to self-development and productivity. No, it's all the same. My relationships are the reason why I'm able to do all the things I'm able to do. What are the job prospects for biochemistry? I wouldn't know. I studied biomedical science. It's a common thing. People mix the courses up. Job prospects for biomedical science. They will tell you, my department is fond of telling us, oh, when you get this degree, you can work everywhere, anywhere. I call the biomedical science degree the first degree of all first degrees, meaning it's the degree that sets you up to get another degree. I don't think that most people who want to stay in the field do biomedical science to end at biomedical science bachelor's degree. So you most definitely have to further your studies. Prospects, you can stay in academia, you can work in research clinics, you can work in hospitals, people want to do that, or labs. There's people that do biomedical science and then go to do medical science, become doctors. Because it is so multidisciplinary, the cool thing about biomedical science is that all the courses and sciences that you're exposed to, you pick one, you zone into it, you further your studies into it, and you become an expert and you practice. What do you plan on doing with your degree? Thank you very much for the question. I plan on collecting more degrees like infinity stones. I am inevitable. I'm always tired. Anything you can do to help. I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this. Sleep. Sleep, baby girl, sleep. I had a problem in that I have been an overachiever my whole life, and I'm still in the system, but I only began to see rest as part of achieving all the things when I was in university and at the tail end. When I was writing BEC, I slept at 12, woke up at 4 to learn. It's BEC. They're asking you questions and the answers are lack of funds, broken homes, and those things. Like, it was never that serious, but that's what I've seen. In SHS, lights out is at 9. I would wait 10 on my flashlights, learn till 12, sleep at 12, wake up at 2, be studying from 2 till lights, like they ring the morning bell. Was it ever that serious? No, but that's what I did. And so by the time university rolled out, I was like learning, sleeping at 12, waking up at 3, doing my whole morning routine and studying again. And eventually something dawned on me. It don't take all that. Sleep in the mighty name of Jesus. Sleep. So yeah, if you're tired, rest. And if you're tired, take stock of what you're doing that you can cut out. For me, in my final year, I was bone deep tired. Final year had me in the lab all the time. You know what I cut out? Debate. I was like, I really loved to debate throughout my university life, and in my final year I said no. It can't be me that I will now be here for 5 hours. I loved it. You don't understand? Like, I loved it to the point where if I'm debating, if I'm training, I am deep in it. I am focused in a state of flow. And I said no, snip off, because you take too much of my time. The time that I cut debate out, it wasn't so I can study more, so I could sleep more. Hope this helps you. Sleep. You should take my advice. My final project was literally on the effects of sleep deprivation. And let me tell you, you need to sleep. That's it. How do you balance academics with God's work? Honey. So for those of you who know, for a couple of years in school, I was part of Joyful Way Incorporated, and I love my Joyful Way Cape Coast family. They did something for me that God will continuously bless them for. How did I do it? By having people around who understood that both things were important. So if I'm in a Joyful Way, there's people who are asking me how my studies are going, right? Because they know it's important. And if I'm studying with my friends, there's friends who know that Joyful Way work and ministry is important. And so, how's that going? So that kept me accountable. Nobody thought that Joyful Way members didn't think that, that's my example, that's why I'm using it. The people that I was doing God's work with, so to speak, didn't think that that was the only important thing. And the people that I was studying with didn't think that that was the only important thing. So they kept me going back and forth, right? Again, it all boils down to time management. I will do a separate video about that because this video is getting really long and I have to edit it. But yes, and praying to God. I think that doing God's work for me flows out of not I need to do it because I want to do it, but because it's my cup runneth over. It only happens not because I set my mind out to do it, but because I spent time with God and certain things are like flowing forward that I want to do and I need to share. It overflows. Do you understand? So I can't really stop the overflow. And so for me, that desire comes from God, and so He gives the ability. The things that I used to do, like I still do monthly group devotions and even more. All of that God's work, it overflows from the fact that throughout my education, I made so much time for just me and God that He was okay trusting me to help at least one other person. So any tips on that? I would say before you think about going all the way, giving yourself to your church band, singing the club, prioritize very intentional time with God. He gives the direction, because not every God's work that you are called to do. If you spend time with Him, He'll tell you what you can do, what you can afford to do with your lifestyle, with the way you work, with the way you learn. He will tell you. Someone said, how did you survive UCC? Sweat, toil, pain. I saw things I could never tell you not a soul about. I experienced torture and torment I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. And through all of that, all I can say is, there is a God. And what's yours now? Leaning on God to a strong support system. I would say, like, honestly, if you're going to school, if you're not going to school and you're in school and you're struggling, pray to God for good friends who will help you. If I explain to you, right, how my friends like held me together it's like I was running a race and I couldn't run it by myself, and there were people holding my hands and moving my legs and helping me, and when I needed to, I was the person holding their arms and legs and moving them. How did I survive UCC? How did I survive anything? Friends. Pray for friends. That's what I'm gonna say. Pray about it. Like, pray intentionally about it. It's a very serious thing, and be the kind of friend you want to see. It doesn't mean that you won't fall short sometimes, but prioritize a support system. How can one deal with an identity crisis? Like, when you don't fit in. I think that especially in the first year, it's hard, because I don't recognize who I was in the first year. For a while there, I was just now forming. And so I would say give yourself the space and pray and try to just be friends with one person and be the kind of friend you need. That usually exposes you. Oh, and put yourself out there. I think that, like, we don't really, in university, when you're fresh there, you don't know who you are before you're coming to tell people who you are. You're a baby. And what I would recommend is putting yourself out there. It was through things like debates, public speaking, campus politics. It was through those things that I realized who I was, and I was able to be confident in different rooms and different settings outside of school. This is the person I am. Like, it taught me so much about myself. So I would say experiment. Like, don't just try to show who you are, try to learn who you are. Also, please remember how your parents have raised you, okay? If they didn't raise you to be going to the club every evening, don't go to university and say, wow, don't do it, okay? Baby, like, just wrap it up, okay? Don't. Remember the parents that raised you. Remember the family you came from. Me. One of the things I'll never do is shame my family name. My family name? You are kidding in these streets. Remember that. Don't shame your family name. How to not overpack for school. I'm not the one. I would be a hypocrite to tell you that I know anything about that. And my reason was simple. I wanted my space to be comfortable. Coming to school, it took 10 trips with me, the porters, everything from my father's car to their room to finish. Like, there was a time my father's car was full, so he came with half of my stuff, and the day after he came with the other stuff. That's how much I was sending to school. Ask me what was there. I couldn't tell. I had my plans. I'm just like, I want my space to be comfortable, and I want, like, my emotional support things around me, so I packed a lot. So I'm not the one. But please make a list. Maybe you can stick to it. Maybe you'll be better. How to study and maintain a business at the same time. I didn't manage a business, but I did work throughout my time in school. Advice for that would be to be ruthless about your time management, and to know the seasons where perhaps you need to shut down the business. You can make it a seasonal business, capitalizing on the times where you'd get a lot of buy-ins and supporters and funds, and then in the seasons where you would not make as much money, you need to be focused on school. Focus on that. Okay, guys, this is empty. The sun is shining. I'm late for my meeting. I hope this helped you. University is a crazy time. We'll probably do another part of this advice series. I loved your questions. I loved answering them. I hope this helped anybody in any way. General advice is develop a support system. Pray to God constantly. Prioritize your time with Him. Prioritize this. There's no exam that is a reason to skip your quiet time in the morning. There's no friend that is a reason to forget the home that you were raised in. Prioritize the things of God, because He will prioritize everything else for you. He is the best time management app if you download from Him every day. Thank you very much for watching this video. Like and subscribe. I wish you all a very good academic year in 2025. And until the next video, shalom, shalom, friends. Night.